Stephanie, thanks very much indeed. Let's see what the front pages of the morning papers have got for us today. And it's one of those interesting Sundays where they disagree about what the big story is. All kinds of different front pages. The Mail on Sunday, Charles refuses to stop hunting. That's in the light of course, the looming ban. The Independent, Iraqis tell Britain, release our prisoners or we kill hostages. The Sunday Times also has that hostage story and a story about murderers to be freed after 7 years. The Observer, go on a completely different tack, revealed the full scale of euthanasia in Britain. Very different type of story. Similarly, the Sunday Telegraph, parents of 1 in 4 state pupils pay for private tuition. They go on an education theme. And the News of the World, Sven, I'll wed Nancy. So the Sven soap opera continues to meander along those front pages well into the autumn. Well, joining me now to choose his selection from the papers is the Labour MP for Islington North, Jeremy Corbyn. Thanks very much indeed, Jeremy, for coming in this morning. You began by choosing that Mail front page, Charles refuses to stop hunting. Why did you choose one?
Well, I just think the idea of, you know, the sort of Queen having a word with him and saying, listen, Charles, you've got to not go hunting, and then he says he's going to carry on hunting. Are we seeing the start of some sort of huge upper class revolt against what Parliament has actually voted on last week, or is this just some froth at the end of the story? But what fascinates me about the whole hunting story is this. We've now had, as a Labour government, 6 years to get a hunting ban through. We've wasted a lot of time and finally done it last week, and the public opinion polls show strong support for a hunting ban, yet the press coverage of it and the PR that's been done by the animal welfare lobby has been not very good, and that means that the pro-hunters have actually got the media upper hand. And so all the stories are actually about the hunters, and they have been for the past several weeks.
Yeah, including, it seems, Prince Charles. I mean, they also make clear that he only plans to continue until the ban is in place, but even so...
It's a message, isn't it?
And what do you think the implications are in terms of the symbolism as you see it for the royal family in his intention to continue, the symbolism of this?
Well, I think the symbolism is that they think the government should not be supporting legislation to ban hunting, and they wish to carry on in this kind of pursuit. Now, the Queen herself hasn't been hunting for a very long time. I think she kind of supports the hunt but doesn't actually ride to it, whereas Charles and his sons do, and it will become illegal for them to do so. Now, whether they join a drag hunt or whatever, I don't know. I think there's an awful lot of interesting stuff to come out on this.
What do you think the implications are for Prince Charles if he carries on in this way and gets this kind of
headline? Well, he becomes more and more unpopular and more marginalised with an awful lot of people, because he presents himself quite effectively at times on sort of inner city issues and architecture and so forth, and yet pursues this sort of very remote, snobbish, upper-class attitude in terms of as he would call it, country sports.
So what would your message be to him if he persists in this way?
Give it up now. Okay. Give up hunting now. But then I would advise anyone to give up hunting. If people want to ride around on horses, absolutely fine. I just think tearing foxes apart is very cruel.
What do you think about Tony Blair's role in this curious episode? I mean, the Telegraph reports today that he's had a word with the Queen about it, no doubt trying to reassure her, I suppose, because there are all kinds of reports in the papers that he regards the whole thing as a waste of time.
Well, his attitude all along has been very, very peculiar indeed. The hunting ban could have easily been voted through in 1997. The Michael Foster bill was there, the majority was there, the political mood was there, and all the rest of it. And it's been a sort of rumbling thing in the Labour backbenches, but it's presented as a sort of appeasement of Labour's backbenches. It's not. Every Labour MP is inundated day after day with letters, emails, postcards, phone calls, and so on about the hunting ban. It's something that has a very big resonance amongst a lot of particularly young people. And so Labour MPs, feeling very nervous after the whole Iraq issue, in which Labour is very unpopular, feel they've got to do something, and Tony Blair finally agreed to do that.
You also select the Sunday Times focus with its headline, It's Civil War. Is it your sense that there is a sort of, it's as passionate as that? I mean, you feel as passionate on your side about it, coming from, some would argue, an urban London constituency. Some people in the countryside clearly feel as passionate the other way. Is this building up into a kind of political civil war?
No, I think that's a bit overstated. I do represent a very urban constituency in London. Grew up in a rural area. I grew up in Shropshire, and I was passionately opposed to fox hunting. I have to say, in a minority of one in my school on this as a schoolboy, and I do understand those feelings. But what I would say is that the majority of people in rural areas do not like hunting. They do not like the arrogance of the hunt, the damages that it does to other people's farms and things like that, or the cruelty that's involved.
Does it worry you that you read that Tony Blair and the Queen have been talking about this? I mean, presumably the Queen is not thrilled with the idea of a ban.
Well, we have the unelected head of state being advised by the Prime Minister that she should cut down her support for hunting. Well, I suppose he's right in that sense, and if the Queen has any political nous, and I think she's probably got a great deal of political nous, then her view will no doubt eventually prevail over Charles.
OK. Next, you've got the Lib Dems there.
Yes, I have.
Their conference opens today.
Well,
that's in the Observer, is it?
Yes, the Observer have a quite interesting point about Kennedy fighting on two fronts. And it's a sort of internal struggle within the Liberal Democrats. And then there's an article by Mark Oaten, Why the Time is Right for Tough Liberalism. He seems to be arguing for sort of community justice against vandals, that is going to get sort of summary justice, and if they don't accept that summary justice, they then have to go to court. And Kennedy fighting on two fronts, one of which is to try to hold back the free marketeers in the Liberal Democrats, led by Mark Oaten, because it seems that the Liberal Democrats, now that they're under some degree of spotlight, have actually got to say what they believe in. Are they a party of high levels of state expenditure and opposing the Labour government from the left? And on a lot of occasions, those of us from the Labour left have voted with the Liberals in Parliament against some of the more zany free enterprise bits of the government, or are they themselves actually a sort of closet Conservative party? And I think they're going to get revealed more and more and be put under a microscope. I mean, my experience of Liberal Democrats in my own borough is they're a kind of... No, I don't. I mean, my experience of Liberal Democrats in my own borough is they're sort of Tories in disguise.
Tories in disguise?
Yes, indeed.
Not to the left of
New Labour. No, not
okay.
at all in my own area, although at a national level, they're a very schizophrenic organisation. At a national level, they often vote in Parliament on issues like Iraq, on issues of sort of social justice, where I would agree with them.
Do you think Labour could lose seats to them simply on that alone? Because of their opposition to the war, they will take seats away from you?
Yes, I think it's a threat to us, but it's also an opportunity for the Labour Party and Labour MPs to assert themselves on the issue of Iraq. I mean, Iraq, Tony Blair not only claimed there was weapons of mass destruction, but now also apparently was warned very clearly by the Foreign Office that a post-invasion Iraq would be an impossible place to govern.
OK, we'll ask Peter Hain about that in a moment. Just very, very quickly, News of the World, Sven, I'll Wed Nancy was one of your choices.
It shows that
it goes on and on.
Silly season isn't over yet. I mean, for goodness sake, the largest selling newspaper in the world decides to talk about the arrangements, shall we say, of the England manager.
Yeah, so there we are.
Come on.
We're well into September, and Sven
Sven
command
rolls
the
on.
headlines. Jeremy Corbyn, thanks very much indeed for coming in. Thanks a lot. Let's now get the very latest news. Here's Stephanie.